Will you consider this? When you notice a lack that needs to be filled, generally you take action. And that is exactly what my next guests will detail for us. It's literally the next station stop for young artists and families to express themselves through the visual arts. Dr. Laura Burke is the founder, and along with the PR person, or is that what you call yourself, Hannah Johnson, they join me so that we will all be enlightened about Illinois Art Station. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with your background first from Illinois State University.
Well, I was a professor of developmental psychology for many years at Illinois State University, teaching child development, also lifespan development. So as part of that, I focused a lot on children's educational, cognitive, and socio-emotional needs. And Illinois Art Station was born out of that background.
Because they need to express themselves.
They absolutely do, yes. Express themselves, have more opportunities really for self-driven problem solving, self-expression, opportunities to express their emotions, to problem solve, to regulate their own behaviors. And it turns out that the arts are an enormously powerful context for developing those crucial attributes.
Mm-hmm. We'll get back to that. And Hannah, how did you get involved with Illinois Art Station? What's your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the performing arts. So both my parents were theater professionals. That was always embedded in our home growing up. And I'm local to Bloomington Normal. So studied history in my degrees in college, both at Illinois Wesleyan University as well as Illinois State University. And so actually ended up first with the McLean County Museum of History in Bloomington. Worked there for 8 years as an informal educator, but had followed Illinois Art Station. So since 2018 is when Illinois Art Station has been offering community programming. And that was really the first time that I heard word of it. I'm involved in a kind of loose coalition of nonprofits, specifically with an education emphasis in Bloomington Normal. And so Illinois Art Station, kind of came on the radar. And so it happened to be in 2022 that the Art Station was looking for a new executive director. And again, had followed the story closely, thought that maybe that was the next stepping stone, in a nonprofit career in Bloomington Normal, and ended up being the case. So.
I said PR, but PR, executive director, you get to do it
all. With a small team, yes, we wear many hats.
You do it all, okay. What goes on at Illinois Art Station? I know, schools, 20, 30 years ago, they were cutting arts programs so frequently that kids didn't have a way to really express themselves. So you saw that void there and you figured out how to fill it.
Yes, well, the mission of Illinois Art Station is to provide all children, youth, and their families with hands-on visual arts experiences of all kinds. These are guided by expert art educators, and there's a special mission to reach those children who are underserved, who have less opportunity than others, or perhaps no opportunity to access these very important and powerful experiences.
And how do you find those children and families?
Well, we have outreach into the community by a very expert executive director who is very well connected to other nonprofits, to neighborhood and community organizations. So Illinois Art Station not only has programming in its new facility, but a tremendous amount of outreach programming and many, many partners in the Bloomington Normal community, and beginning here as well in Peoria.
So give me an idea of what goes on the first time a child and a mom or dad or whomever comes to the Illinois Art Station. What do they do? And how often do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, kind of making that note of Illinois Art Station started out exclusively as an outreach organization, right? And it wasn't until 2021 that we had a physical space. And so being able to maintain both of those engagements is so crucial. And so what we do now have with this physical space is that opportunity to welcome families in. And so our Saturdays at the station is our drop-in art making. We're open every Saturday from 10 to 2. What's great about Saturday at the station is that there's no registration required, right? So we're really on the schedule of our young artists and families. So in that time, they have the opportunity to engage in 2 different studio spaces that are facilitated with art educators, like Dr. Burke mentioned. We have our creation stations, which is a self-guided area, and we also have an exhibition space on site that rotates every 6 weeks or so. And so even community members who might not have young artists can still feel welcome to come in on a Saturday, check out the exhibition, see our space in action. But we'll have young artists and families on average spend 90 minutes to 2 hours with us on a Saturday, working their way through the space, taking advantage of our grounds. We sit on almost 3 acres, and so there's wildlife and woods to glimpse right off of Constitution Trail. And so those Saturdays, really is a family affair. It's a drop-in program, not a drop-off program. And then during the week, we've kind of gotten into the habit of describing our operations a little bit more like a school. And so there's either on-site programming happening that is drop-off, right? So that's with our homeschoolers or that's after-school programs. If it's our ITSE or early learning, that's still a family affair. We have adults with their young artists. Or again, we're out in the community everywhere, whether it's inside the schools, inside after school programming, doing other partner programming throughout the day. And so always come and find us 10 to 2 on a Saturday, and then expect that we're either going to be engaged in the work on site with our young artists or off site during the week.
So you have staff that actually goes into the school. So the schools request you to come in and teach a particular lesson?
Yeah, so we'll partner with teachers just like you would with any school program or field trip. We also have ongoing partnerships with organizations like Western Avenue Community Center, Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington Normal, Unity Community Center. And these are times where we're able to go in on a regular basis, whether that's weekly or monthly, depending on the community partnership. But we're also, we partner very closely with our early learning centers in Bloomington Normal, and in that way we're offering weekly programming for 10 weeks at a time in the fall and the spring to our littlest young artists. So these are 3s and 4-year-olds. We're working specifically with them to think about arts as a medium for emotional exploration, identification, regulation, and have built out a curriculum that these 3s and 4s are getting on a consistent basis. And we're really looking to analyze, to evaluate what that impact, that developmental impact is based on this early arts exposure. And so depending on the program, there's a lot of different layers that we're personally looking at as art educators. But yeah, we have a small team, 2 full-time folks, including myself. So we've got 1 full-time art educator, 2 part-time educators, and then we still work very closely with Illinois State University to build out a staff of student graduate workers who help facilitate our educational programming, as well as assist us in that evaluative and research component.
Well, now, Dr. Burke, so you noticed through your degrees and your teaching that really, truly, there was a void, and in working with families, you also knew that developmentally this was good for children. And so how long ago did you recognize that before you could finally get enough momentum to get this ball rolling?
Well, I think it was a gradual recognition and realization. I think I drew on some of my own childhood experiences with the visual arts, which were so important and so memorable to me, often different from my school experiences, where the focus was on
Stay in the lines.
Well, one right way to do things, one correct way to think. But increasingly, our world is requiring of our citizens and anyone who works in the United States to think outside of the box, to think more divergently, to solve novel problems. And I also found the arts to be a source of resilience. I think a child who has challenges, is troubled by something, given the opportunity to engage in the arts and to express those feelings and to represent them nonverbally, is given resources to surmount those difficulties, to overcome them, and to see that they can do more than they thought they can do.
They were capable of, correct.
Exactly. And the research that I encountered as a professor bore that out, I think. We have a growing body of evidence on the visual arts and its very profound impact on virtually all domains of development, whether it is physical and fine motor or even gross motor as the child is building a big sculpture, certainly cognitively, in terms of the regulatory activities of our own ways of thinking and so forth, and in terms of understanding, and emotionally and socially. So one of the things that happens at Illinois Art Station is that our young artists have opportunities to connect with other young artists who are not necessarily like themselves. They may come from different walks of life, different neighborhoods, different backgrounds. And they come together because they're engaged in a common activity.
Well, so when they are expressing themselves, let's say so emotionally, probably is the biggest thing, who analyzes that, or how can you analyze it and then make sure that the proper attention or the proper action is taken to help these kids out of the rabbit hole they may be going down? I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, so again, depending on the programming, depending on the partner, is, how, we'll say, heavily we lay on that evaluative work. Sometimes we're offering, again, after-school programming that is as simple, quote unquote, as gathering 20 unique young artists together to explore works of contemporary artists, right? Artists that may not be part of the everyday school curriculum, right? But supplementary to, again, contemporizing that exposure, making that exposure even more relevant to their lived experience. But then there's opportunities that we have to work with close partners like Central Illinois Bridge Academy for us was a pilot program this summer. This is a brand new school within Regional Office of Education 17. It was designed specifically for students with internalizing mental health conditions. And so they had their first school year, were offering their first year of summer programming, and invited Illinois Art Station in as a partner in that work. And so we knew going in that the students, the young artists that we'd be working with, had these pre-existing conditions or situations. And so that was able to inform the type of programming that we brought in, or maybe the themes or the artists' lived experiences that we wanted to explore with them. But it wasn't necessarily didactic in the way, of us looking for specific evidence at the end of it, but it offered us an opportunity to work specifically with the population that we had, certain understandings of their needs, and curate an experience specific to them, right? And still build out this idea for us, aligned with our mission to provide these transformative experiences for young artists, and to really meet those young artists where they are, how they are, and who they are, right?
What has been the most fascinating, fun exhibit that you've received from the kids? And maybe not even just one. I mean, have you gotten like a big chuckle out of a couple of them because it's like, well, that's not what we were thinking at all, but these kids took it in a completely different direction?
Yeah, so whether it was there's always humor in art making, 100%, especially when you're working with young artists. But one really impactful exhibit that we were able to exhibit at Illinois Art Station was last summer. We worked closely with, again, another nonprofit organization And the students and the young artists that we were working with, essentially the prerequisite to be part of this program was that they had some sort of engagement with law enforcement, whether that was they themselves, whether that was a family member.
Wow.
And so again, kind of a tough situation that these kids are coming from, but had the opportunity to spend a week with us over the summer, exploring empowerment through the arts, exploring their own identity, exploring how they can express that through their art making. Again, being exposed to and confronted with artists who are reconciling with maybe similar experiences, or at least themes that can help them through. And so we had an exhibit that was the culminating product of this week-long experience with these students. And what these young artists created, they were specifically inspired by the work of Mark Bradford, who's an LA-based artist who does a lot of work with collage and decollage. He'll go around and he'll collect posters that have been plastered on walls of buildings and things promoting different things. And he'll take them and he'll repurpose them, and he'll take these existing words and phrases and completely change them around through erasure or through, again, collaging over. And there was one exercise that our art educators had put together for these young artists, thinking about maybe negative phrases that they would create and then scrape away.
Erasing that.
Erasing that,
Yes,
right?
okay.
And seeing those words, erasing them, changing their meaning, right? But we found that even though that was the prompt, our young artists were so compelled to create positive statements and preserve those statements and showcase those statements. And so that was a really neat thing to see. And even though it wasn't necessarily the intent, and we had this idea that they would go through this erasure process, and that might be a cathartic moment for them to erase those negative phrases, they really wanted to emphasize the things that they wanted people to know about them, that they wanted to promote and shout out publicly. And so that was really special too. And that was their agency in their art, right? They decided, no, I see where this is going, but this is really the direction we're going to go. And so they still had the opportunity to engage in the same mediums, right, in the same kind of art making, but that the statement that they made at the end was really theirs. It wasn't anyone else's.
Right. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is like one of those aha
Yeah.
moments. So this is your baby that you had been incubating for a while. And how do you feel about where it has come from and the direction it's heading?
Well, I feel that I am one of the most fortunate founders and donors of a new not-for-profit organization, because I had a mission, a set of values, goals in my mind, and those are truly being realized by the leadership and the staff of Illinois Art Station. And I don't think that happens all the time.
Not without a lot of extra nudges.
Exactly. So I am deeply gratified by what I see every time I enter Illinois Art Station, go into a studio, observe children engaged in these experiences. I am just enthralled with what I see. The open-ended problem solving, the happiness of children, the positive moments that they're experiencing, the unique and quite outstanding teaching available to them at Illinois Art Station. So I'm really absolutely delighted.
Proud mama.
I am a proud mama.
So how many kids come through in a week? You're closed on Sundays, I would imagine.
Closed on Sundays. Currently, for us right now, it's more or less a capacity issue, right? We're still in those early developmental phases, just like our young artists. And so we have bigger and brighter visions of how Illinois Art Station will grow and be able to welcome even more people through our doors. But I will say for sure, our busiest Saturdays are always our free Saturdays. So thanks to the support of the Town of Normal Herman Arts Grant and also Golden K Kiwanis in Bloomington, we're able to offer free Saturdays at the station once a month. For us, it's a really it's a nice invitation, right? We get to say, come, check us out, see what you like, and then grow those relationships from there. And so, but when we're in our fall and our summer, or fall and our spring seasons, when we've got our after school programming going on, you know, we're seeing We're seeing 30, 40, 50 kids once you add in Saturdays for sure throughout the week. And we were crunching some recent numbers, and we're up to more than 5,000 individual art making experiences just from January to September of this year.
Really?
And so again, when you think of essentially a staff of 4+ engaging with that many young artists and families,
It's a lot of patience.
and endurance, right? But it's all so worth it. So we can be a real hopping place.
So you said free Saturday. So is there a sliding scale tuition, I guess you would call it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we largely operate on a pay-as-you-can model. This is a model that's really intended to, again, empower families. And so rather than a strict scholarship or a full price, essentially it's that sliding scale for families to be able to budget for themselves. We find that, again, it's the opportunity. Folks want to support Illinois Art Station, right? And so if a family can determine that they can give 25% of tuition and feel as though they're supporting an organization that's supporting them, we really want to be able to foster that opportunity and also encourage folks who can pay more than what we recommend as the suggested price. And so all of our programming when it comes to those registered programs is a pay-as-you-can model. And then Saturdays is an $8 charge per young artist. Otherwise, we offer the free Saturdays every fourth Saturday of the month. We do offer birthday parties as well. Those are not a sliding scale, but it is an opportunity for us to engage with families in different ways. And also, again, as a young nonprofit, that revenue generation is crucial to our operations. And so we try to always find opportunities that are mission aligned, but that can still, restore us so that we can continue to offer the programming that we do.
So you're pretty proud, Mama, of this one too, because we're coming up with all these new age ideas.
I am very, very proud and impressed with her energy and knowledge and capacity. So for me, this has been
A dream come true.
a dream come true.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, now you mentioned that you're expanding into Peoria as well, or what's happening there?
Yeah, so we take our name Illinois Art Station very seriously, and so even though we are nestled very nicely in Normal Bloomington, we see the need, right, and the want in our Central Illinois communities, and so we do as much as we possibly can outreach.
With a staff of 4.
Exactly right. Outreach to our surrounding communities, but we're really excited about this newfound collaboration with Peoria, coming off of a really successful Sunny Days series where we brought the stars of Sesame Street back home to Bloomington Normal, as well as Peoria. We're really hopeful that with connections like OSF Healthcare Children's Hospital of Illinois and the Peoria Riverfront Museum, that we're just on the cusp of getting into the market and figuring out, how we can be a part of an already rich and existing arts community here in Peoria. So we're just looking to add to and support however we can.
Well, that'd be nice if you could find at least a couple of part-timers on this side of the river.
There you go. Exactly right. Now who's scheming? Yeah.
All right. So, bucket list then for Illinois Art Station. Start with you, Dr. Burke.
The bucket list is really to expand, to reach that level of stability financially so that we have a very long future, that we inspire other communities to develop similar projects that fit with their own cities and surroundings, and that the whole mission of Illinois Art Station spreads, it propagates, it becomes bigger so that it reaches more and more children.
Right. And your bucket list to grow it a little bit more,
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it goes back to this mission of providing transformative experiences in the visual arts, right? And so those are transformative for our young artists. They're transformative for the communities that we engage with. There's a lot of exciting conversation happening in Bloomington Normal right now about public art, right? And that's something that we didn't necessarily intend to get into from the get-go, right? Was public art, but we've had really awesome opportunities to engage in mural creation and other public art experiences with our communities. And so, that's a conversation that we're always happy to be a part of. And again, if we can transform our surroundings, if we can prove and demonstrate the value of the visual arts, especially for our young artists, but for all community members, then, our mission is justified and it's
fulfilled.
embedded. Exactly right.
Real quickly, where do we find you?
Absolutely. So physical location, 101 East of Vernon, at the corner of Vernon and Linden in Normal, Illinois. We are online at illinoisartstation.org, and we really encourage everyone to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at IL Art Station.
All right, got that plug in. So there's the PR portion of your, okay,
Absolutely.
great. Ladies, thank you so much for being here and sharing the story. And really, you were kind of a well-kept secret. So now I think that you're not going to be so well kept.
so secret.
All right,
Exactly.
thank you for joining us. I hope that you learned a lot about Illinois Art Station and take advantage.